On October 20th, U.S. Customs and Border Protection (CBP) said it found conclusive evidence a Chinese company used forced labor to make the sweetener stevia and ordered American ports to seize all shipments. The agency said in a statement on October 20th that after an investigation, CBP had determined that Inner Mongolia Hezheng Group Baanzhao Agriculture, Industry and Trade Corporation used convict, forced, or indentured labor to produce stevia extracts and derivatives. It added that those products are being or are likely to be imported to the United States. Stevia is a plant extract used as a sweetener in sodas and other foods. The investigation arose after the agency received a tip-off in 2016 from a non-government organization that stevia produced by the Chinese company was made with prison labor. That year, the CBP issued a detention order on imported stevia produced by Baanzhao, based on reasonable but inconclusive proof of forced labor. The CBP determination, the agency's first ruling forced labor finding since 2006, instructs U.S. port directors to seize any shipments and commence forfeiture proceedings. Brenda Smith, Executive Assistant Commissioner of CBP's Office of Trade, said in a statement, "Today's finding tells U.S. importers who fail to eliminate forced labor from their supply chains that their shipments may be subject to seizure and forfeiture." In August, U.S. company Pure Circle USA agreed to pay a $575,000 fine to settle a CBP investigation that it had imported stevia from Baanzhao made with forced labor. The agency has stepped up its investigations of imports suspected to be made with forced labor in China. Since September 2019, it has issued 9 detention orders or withhold release orders, WROs, against products from China. In September, the CBP issued 5 WROs against cotton, hair products, clothing, and other products made in Xinjiang, cracking down on the regime's illicit, inhumane, and exploitative practices of forced labor. The regime has detained more than 1 million Uyghur Muslims and other Muslim minorities in the northwestern region. In June, the CBP seized 13 tons of human hair products worth $800,000 suspected to have been made by forced labor in the region of Xinjiang, China. Activists and researchers believe the hair was sourced from Uyghur Muslim inmates detained in the region's vast network of internment camps.
Japan's military has agreed to create a framework for protecting Australian Defence Force assets as the two countries forge stronger bilateral ties amid rising tensions in the Indo-Pacific. On October 19th, Japan's Defense Minister Nobuo Kishi announced the transition in a joint statement with Australian Defense Minister Linda Reynolds, who visited Tokyo for bilateral discussions with her counterpart. Kishi said, "Australia is our special strategic partner in the region, and Japan Ministry of Defense and Self-Defense Forces are going to deepen our bilateral defense cooperation and exchanges to uphold and reinforce the free and open Indo-Pacific." Reynolds concurred with Kishi saying, "Japan and Australia share a vision for a region that is open, that is inclusive, and one where the sovereignty and the rights of all states, large and small, are respected." She added, "Australia and Japan are working together to enhance our defense partnerships right across Southeast Asia and the Pacific. I am so proud to be standing next to Kishi-san at the beginning of our productive and important working relationship for both our nations." Reynolds is currently shoring up Australia defense ties with the country's strongest Indo-Pacific allies, Japan, Singapore, Brunei, and the Philippines, to increase Australia's bilateral defense arrangement against security challenges in the region. Prior to departing for Japan on October 16th, Reynolds said that the Indo-Pacific is experiencing the most consequential strategic realignment since World War II. Reynolds said, "I will use my visit to deepen bilateral engagement with these important partners and friends who share our vision of an open, inclusive, and prosperous Indo-Pacific. Our partnerships with regional countries have a long history, and we are focused on further strengthening these relationships through expanding defense diplomacy, cooperation, and capacity-building activities." The move by Japan and Australia comes at a time when the Quad nations, Australia, the United States, Japan, and India, are seeking to send a clear message that they are strongly opposed to any coercive attempts by China to change the status quo in the Indo-Pacific, and especially in the South China Sea or the East China Sea. The Quad, or the Quadrilateral Security Alliance, was established by former Japanese President Shinzo Abe and was designed as a way to form an arc of democracy around the Indo-Pacific region. It is viewed by the Chinese Communist Party as the Asian NATO. Australia, Japan, India, and the United States are scheduled to participate in the Malabar exercises in the Indian Ocean in November. This will be the first time since 2007 that Australia has joined the military exercises. Announcing the news on October 20th, Reynolds said that Australia's participation will bolster the ability of India, Australia, Japan, and the United States to work together to uphold peace and stability across our region. The United States, Australia, and Japan have rapidly increased their military presence in the Indo-Pacific in the past 10 months, completing multiple military exercises in the Pacific since the start of the year, all in an effort to secure the region from China.
This year marks the 70th anniversary of the Korean War, 1950 to 1953. Beijing held a high-profile commemoration, eulogizing the Chinese Communist Party's great victory and claiming that its participation in the Korean War was a historic decision to protect our motherland. However, some Chinese netizens questioned who waged the Korean War. Some netizens also exposed that the CCP was not a winner, but a big liar in this war. On October the 19th, Chinese leader Xi Jinping led Vice Chairman Wang Qishan and 7 Politburo Standing Committee members to an exhibition named Resisting US, Aid North Korea. Xi claimed that the spirit of resisting the US aggression and aiding North Korea will certainly inspire China to overcome all difficulties and obstacles and defeat all powerful enemies. The CCP's military commission also approved the production of a documentary series, Resisting US, Aid North Korea. The CCP's mouthpiece, China Central Television, began to air it continuously on October the 18th, and the narrative is a blatant distortion of basic facts.
This commemoration of the 70th anniversary of the so-called Resisting US Aid North Korea is age-old propaganda that the CCP conducts every year. I think this time the CCP is bluffing, trying to embolden itself. The high-level CCP officials, including Xi Jinping, are all lacking confidence, a true feeling they want to hide.
The CCP claimed that it won the Korean War and protected world peace. Historian Yan Zhihua said this is the biggest lie, as the CCP lost in this war.
The military expenditures, weapons, and ammunition consumed during the 3-year war. Although the weapons were provided by Stalin and the Soviet Union, China paid for them, and the expenditures were finally passed on to the working people in China. Some people revealed it wasn't until 1960 that Mao Zedong paid off the military expenses the CCP owed to Stalin.
Historian Li Yuanhua believes that the whole world must take action to hold the culprits accountable for launching the Korean War.
Kim Il-sung launched this war of aggression against South Korea. He used the excuse that he was countering South Korea after South Korea crossed the 38th parallel. Because of his aggressive conduct, the United Nations and Western countries, led by the United States, passed a resolution and formed a coalition. The military alliance, led by the United States, then attacked North Korea. At this point, under the pressure from the Soviet Union, the CCP also participated in this war in the name of resisting the United States and aiding North Korea.
Li Yuanhua said the Korean War lasted 3 years and came to an end when both sides reached a ceasefire agreement. There was no winner or loser, and South Korea and North Korea both went back to the states they were, still using the 38th parallel as the boundary.
There is no such thing as who should claim victory. It was a war of aggression when North Korea launched the war. As for the CCP, it either wanted to protect the communist camp or wanted to take the opportunity to further conquer Taiwan. It indeed had this purpose at the time, but the participation of the American troops shattered the CCP's dream to unify Taiwan. Therefore, the victory the CCP touted is a big lie. It is self-deceiving as well as deceiving others.
The Korean War was the most brutal war after the Second World War, causing 5 million deaths. The countries that participated in the UN troops all felt that they had paid a huge price. The CCP has never provided an accurate death toll for its volunteer soldiers, yet it is still celebrating the so-called victory. A Chinese netizen whose internet name is Red Willow wrote about one of his relatives who participated in the Korean War. He now lives in Canada and noticed that inside a park nearby, there is a sculpture in memory of Canadian soldiers who lost their lives in the Korean War. Every year on November the 11th, Canadians would come to commemorate these soldiers. He felt it was strange because the CCP never mentioned that other Western countries also participated in the war. He did some online research and discovered that the CCP was deceiving Chinese people about the Korean War. The so-called resisting US was actually 3 communist regimes fighting against an 18-nation coalition. Another netizen said that the 18-nation coalition was implementing the UN resolution, and they were participating in the war in accordance with international law. The CCP did not dare to send formal troops and decided to recruit volunteer soldiers. The name of the Chinese troops was Chinese People's Volunteer Army, to clarify that it was not affiliated to the Chinese government. These netizens lamented that after they came abroad, they discovered that they were living in endless lies when they were in China.